I think it depends on the context where you are. So like we gave a few talks at the Kafka meetup or the Kafka summit, and then questions were really related to the Kafka domain. Then online, people reached out about other open source things that we're doing or blogs that we wrote. Anyone doing our job, I think, loves answering questions or discussing about what he's doing or she's doing. So it's a big variety of questions. Like another question that is not technical is like, are you hiring? Yes, we are hiring. So it really depends.
I think, you know, one of the questions we had often is like, it's more related to the business itself. How do you go that fast? How from like a tiny team, we brought this idea of data operations and a platform for data integration. How did it scale that fast? And the idea was always like, okay, let's try to democratize, you know, the access to this piece of technology, Kafka. If you read about Kafka, actually it's very similar to Kubernetes. You know, the opinion of you know, the tech people out there is just, oh yeah, it's a good piece of tech, but it could be a bit complex to work with. So really only use if you need to. Same with Kubernetes. And again, I should mention that everything we talked about today wouldn't have been possible without having also a great orchestration team at Babylon who built, you know, at the end we are just, especially in data operation, we are stealing some of the principles of the DevOps community, and we apply that to data engineering, to our pipelines, and in this case to the way we manage the infrastructure and we manage deployment of those applications. So yeah, limiting the complexity, allowing democratization. I guess that's what people were asking. And then, you know, yeah, did you open source? Have you open source already this solution? And in this case, you know, the templating engine I mentioned several times. I think I need to mention it. It's open source. It's called Shipcat, and you can find it online on GitHub.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, but just in case I forget as well, too, I want to put in the chat so everyone can see the blog that both of you are a part of called Data Rocks. So everyone can take a look at that because there's constantly new information coming out there, whether writing articles or editing articles. It's definitely a good place. If you want to stay in touch with both Francesco and Jeremy, it's a good way to do it. Sorry, Francesco, what were you going to say?
I was about to say is that so there are a lot of questions that you can receive when talking into a public audience, but there are also very interesting questions when you talk with your colleagues. And something that we try to do as much as possible was sharing knowledge and making sure that the template that we were building, the cookie cutter that we were building, was reducing the knowledge barrier to start using our streaming platform. And essentially, we were building a product for engineers. So interacting with those engineers was really, really useful. And in most of the cases, it was the other way around. We were asking questions to them to understand what was the challenge, what was making the actual adoption, let's say, slow, or it was making it more complex than what it should have been. And thanks to this constant feedback loop, that we managed to achieve a solution that started delivering value. So it's not perfect, as anything in the engineering world. There is always a ton of space to improvement. But if you're building something like that, I strongly suggest to talk with the engineers around you and make sure that the engineers are part of the journey as soon as possible. Something that we mentioned in a different podcast that was related to my time at Babylon is that one of the mistakes that we did was involving the Babylon engineers a bit too late. So there was a team that knew a lot about Kafka, that was loving Kafka a lot. Some of them got addiction to Kafka, but then there was a massive knowledge gap with the rest, and it took quite a bit of time to close that gap. While if you make sure that everyone is around you is part of the journey, obviously on a different speed, but is constantly part of the journey, this problem will hopefully should not be there.